Hey librarians, so last week the New York Times published this article that was all about the new trend of literary tourism. Yeah, I know it's not new, but still. Anyway, the article went through all the cool things that people are doing in the name of literary tourism, everything from reading retreats to using a literary festival as a travel destination. And overall, it was an exciting article. It made me happy, except that by the end of the article, one might think that literary tourism was something for white people. It was something that highlights and centers the stories, the lived experiences, the books written by white authors and read by white people, which made me sad because that's just not true. That's not what literary tourism is all about. And it's a very narrow focus. So in this video, I want to do two things. I want to dispel the myth that literary tourism is for white people, and I want to share with you all some exciting global literary destinations just to give you a sense of just how diverse and multicultural literary tourism really can be. All right, let's get into it. I am Lori Tharps. This is my channel where I share with you my global literary life. I used to live in the United States where I was a traditionally published author. I am still a traditionally published author, but I now live in the south of Spain, doing my best to launch a full-time fiction career and again, to live a global literary life, which is why I feel like I'm the perfect person to talk about literary tourism, especially from a global perspective. So let's get to the point. I am, again, a big fan of literary tourism, but I am not a big fan of the way whenever people talk about literary tourism in kind of a public way, if you Google ideas for literary tourism, the same things keep popping up. And it's usually something that has to do with the Bronte sisters, has to do something in England, maybe Paris, maybe the United States, sometimes Germany, Russia, and Prague pop up in there as well. But again, the idea is like it just feels very focused on white authors, white or European or Western destinations. And I want people to understand why that is just so silly and short-sighted and narrow of a focus for literary tourism. So let me use some basic facts to help dispel this myth that literary tourism is a white thing. All right, fact number one. Let's talk about the book. The book is the basis for all literary tourism, whether you read books, write books, or you want to celebrate the people who write books, right? The book is the basis of it all. So if we look at the history of the book, okay, let's just begin with history, literary history. The very first book was written, I'm sorry, not the very first book, the very first novel was written not in Europe, not in the United States, not by a man, but by a woman in Japan. Yes. Did you know this? Did you know that the first recognized novel in the world was written by a woman in the 11th century, and it's called The Tale of Genji? The Tale of Genji. So here we have a literary trend, literary tourism, that we should acknowledge its even global origins when we think about the very first person to write a novel. Then we look at things like bookstores and libraries, because again, these are the places that people often want to visit to mark or to visit and see and witness as part of literary tourism. But also, again, it's just the backdrop of this trend is, the libraries, the bookstores, the places that hold, that we archive our books. Did you know that the oldest working library in the world is not in England, it's not in Europe, it's not in the United States, it's in Africa. Yes, it's in Morocco in the city of Fez. So this is the oldest working library. I'm just checking my notes here. It was founded by a woman, again, women rock. It was founded by a woman in 859. That was 200 years before any library of the sort was created in Europe, by the way. This library, I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to mangle the pronunciation. I'm just going to write it here. But the point is that this library is still in existence. It's still working. You can still visit it. And again, it's in Fez, Morocco, which, by the way, Fez is the UNESCO World Heritage City of Literature for the year 2026, FYI. So I just bring these things up, the origin of the book, are the oldest working library in the world. These two things have nothing to do with Europe. And when you're talking about honoring literature, literary culture, we have to think about the countries where these things are so old. Not Europe, not the UK, but in Japan, the first novel and the oldest continuously working library in Morocco. So just that backdrop should make you start thinking more globally when you're talking about literary tourism, literary travel. All right, point the second about literary tourism not being just for white people or a white thing. Think about one of the second things that people love to do as part of literary travel, literary tourism, is something I call author pilgrimages, right? Where people like to go to the home, the grave site, the place where their favorite author did their best work. So tracing the footsteps of your favorite author, again, whether their home, their grave site, where they did their best work. And this is pretty obvious. Not all authors are white, right? So why would literary pilgrimages be limited to white authors? Now, the sad fact is that, in the West, in the United States, in Europe, a lot more work has been done to make official markers, to turn the homes of our favorite literary heroes into museum spaces. There isn't the same amount of funding or public outcry to make sure that these homes are registered or they're recognized. So it's not as easy. There aren't as many official tours. Sometimes we have to do this work ourselves. Me personally, I went on a hunt to find where Langston Hughes lived in Madrid when he lived there during the Spanish Civil War as a war correspondent. It was actually kind of exciting, and I found the building where he stayed at, and it was really cool. Granted, it would be even more cool if there was an actual literary tour, Langston Hughes's literary Madrid tour. Maybe I'll do that. But the point is, if you have a favorite author and you want to make a literary pilgrimage to their homes, to their, the places where they did their best work, to their grave sites, you just need to figure out where they are and do that. And of course, that does not have to be, again, a white centric or a Western Europe centric activity. All right. And number 3, to dispel the myth that literary tourism is a white thing, is, of course, literary festivals, which can be the kind of backbone of a literary tourism experience. Again, this feels so obvious to say, but I gotta say it anyway. Despite what was published in certain articles, and that you might, again, if you Google literary festivals for literary tourism, they're not all in Europe. They're not all in the UK and the United States. And even if they are, there are amazing literary festivals in the United States and the UK, for example, that do highlight non-white authors, like the Black British Book Festival, for example. But you don't have to stay in the confines of the United States or the UK or Europe to go to book festivals. Some of the most amazing book festivals and book conferences happen all over the world. I do have a list of the best BIPOC literary festivals on my Read, Write, and Create website. I'll leave the link in the description. But you could be going you pick the continent, the country, and I guarantee you there is a book festival there. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, well, I want to go to some really exotic locations, places that are really different, really far flung, and I don't speak the language, so how am I going to enjoy a book festival in a foreign country? Well, a lot of countries have English language book festivals. For example, one is upcoming in January 2027 in Marrakesh, where, Marrakesh is in Morocco. They speak French and Arabic in Morocco, and nobody's telling you that you have to go to a book festival where you're not going to speak the language. I can tell you from experience, it's kind of disappointing. It feels frustrating to not be able to read the work or to participate in the conference discussions and the panel discussions. But again, there are a lot of countries that host English language book festivals. The Marrakesh English language book festival happens biannually. It's happening in 2027 in January. Best believe I'm going to be there because Morocco is one of my favorite places to be. And while I wish I spoke French well enough to read, I barely speak French, so I don't even know what I'm saying, but I wish that I could read in the language, the native language of the people who live there. But there are Moroccans who write in English. So that festival highlights those people, those authors, and I'm super excited to go to that. So again, your book festival experience, your literary festival experience, does not have to be limited to the ones that happen in your own city or town, does not have to be limited to England because they speak English. Don't forget Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, they speak English. They have incredible literary culture in these countries, and they have incredible literary festivals. They're all listed on my website. Anyway, so, oh, and let's not forget India. Let's not forget the Caribbean. You have a lot of countries. I'm assuming you're English speaking if you're watching this video, but there's a lot of countries that the main language or one of the main languages is English. So you can, again, check to see what literary festivals in non-white countries you could go and attend and have a really good time. All right. Now, I said that I would finish by offering just some ideas of literary destinations that you might want to go to that are not in England or the United States. And again, I am not bucking England or the United States. There's some incredible literary festivals there. I'm just trying to highlight the things that people don't highlight, that people don't know about, because we need to widen our lens when we talk about literary tourism. So 3 things I want to talk about. 1, the Jaipur Literary Festival. I had the pleasure of going to the Jaipur Literary Festival in Spain. Yes, they have these little offshoots all around the world to kind of drum up excitement for the big Jaipur Literary Festival in India. I've always wanted to go to India, but I've always felt overwhelmed with planning the trip. Now I can plan a trip around that book festival, the Jaipur Literary Festival. It sounds and looks incredible. When I was at the little mini version of it in Spain, everybody who was there, who was part of the festival, convinced me that I would love it, and I'm sure I would. So that's one, exciting. If you've been wanting to go to India, you love books, that could be a way to go for you as well. I already mentioned the Marrakesh English Language Book Festival that happens biannually. So 2027 is the year in January. So again, if you've been wanting to go to Morocco, you've been trying to figure out when you should go, how you should plan your trip, what you should plan it around, there's an idea for you. One more literary festival that I think is incredible is the Calabash Literary Festival that also happens biannually. I am pretty sure it is happening in May 2027. It happens in Jamaica. It is an incredible literary festival, one of my favorites. And I mean, what better thing could you do? Books and beach in the same festival? It is fantastic. It's very global. It's very international, but it obviously has a Caribbean focus, a Caribbean flair. So again, those are just 3 book festivals that you will go, you will see and experience a much more international vibe. You will see more authors represented that are not white and Western and European. You will see some of those. I'm not saying they're not going to be there at all, but it's not the focus, and the country they're not white countries, so to speak. All right, so the other destination that I want to talk about is the Paju Book City. So that is in South Korea. Okay, it's called Paju Book City. And this is literally a city built around the book. There are publishers, bookstores, new and used, book cafes. There's a playground for children. There are art galleries. It sounds so amazing. I have not been there, but I read about it. I think, I don't remember where I read an article about it, but it looks absolutely amazing. And it is a place that any book lover should go to, should make a pilgrimage to. Imagine an entire city based around books and book production. So, that would again be one of my bucket list items, one of my bucket list literary tourism destinations to go to. So, so those are let me make sure, I'm just checking my notes real quick. Yes. Okay. So those are the ideas that I have for you to start thinking about global destinations that can be as far flung again as you want them to be. I hope that in this video I have convinced you, one, that literary tourism is absolutely not only for white people, that literary tourism is as global, diverse, and multicultural as the book is, as the readers around the world who love literature and literary culture. So get out there, figure out how you can participate in this wonderful global trend and enjoy. Thanks. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.